So you are thinking about going to ABCD Festival or perhaps another festival that is kind of similar, but you're not entirely sure whether you want to part with your money just yet. In this video, I'm going to go through what you can expect from something like ABCD Festival to help you make your decision as to whether or not you should go. Let's first talk about the timetable. ABCD in particular has a pretty impressive timetable, and we're going to talk through it today. What I'm going to look at in particular is last year's timetable, which was quite similar to previous years as well, so we can kind of expect something similar for 2025. I'm sure Fatty K will have a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but let's have a look at last year's schedule. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video, I have to make a few disclaimers. I want to be completely transparent with you. Take everything I say with a pinch of salt because I am biased. I've absolutely loved the festival. It was my first ever festival that I ever went to. It was one that I got the opportunity to promote. It was one that I attended. I have attended for a few years, and then eventually I got the opportunity to teach there as well. Whilst I do think it's absolutely amazing, even from like a non-biased perspective, I do get something out of promoting it. So take that as you will. Today I'm just going to be presenting you with some facts, including some pros and cons. So I'm going to try and give as much of an unbiased opinion as possible. So let's go into the timetable. As I said, we're going to go through last year's one. So I'll put it up on the screen for you to have a look at as we talk through it. Okay, starting off, first up, we have the Friday evening timetable. Last year it started at 9 o'clock and we started off with a 50-minute class. We have 4 different rooms. In those rooms, the first room, the main hall, you've got 3 salsa classes for beginners, improvers and intermediate and advanced. And one thing I will say is ABCD stands for anybody can dance. So the beginner classes are actually very beginner friendly, and it is a festival with plenty of beginner classes to choose from, as well as the intermediate and advanced classes. So just keep that in mind, that there is going to be something there for your level. So we have our salsa classes in the main hall. We have 3 levels of bachata classes in the performance hall. You've got in the dance studio Kizomba 2 levels, and then you've got a rueda all levels in the canteen. So you've got 4 different options here and a really good selection of teachers. Once that class is finished, then you have a party which starts at 10 o'clock and it's in 4 rooms, and that goes on until 3 a.m. What I will do is I'm going to put a little counter on for how many hours of stuff we have available. Do one for classes, one for different class types, and one for hours of social dancing. So here we've got from 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. and we've got 4 rooms. You've got a salsa room, a Cuban salsa room, a bachata room and a Kizomba room. And then we've also got shows, which is 11 p.m. to 11:30. Usually while those shows are happening, the socials in the other rooms are still happening. So you can watch the shows, which I recommend because they are really good, or you can continue social dancing. Moving on, we have our Saturday timetable. Now these start at 11 o'clock. Again, you've got 4 rooms, but the thing is you don't just have one class per room, you have multiple. So for example, here in the main hall, you've got the bachata, but then you've got 3 different levels. You've got improvers, intermediates and advanced. So you could be a bachatero and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to one of those festivals where the bachata is for all levels, and then you're kind of getting a middle of the road kind of standard or level. Here you've got 3 different levels that you can pick from, which are appropriate for you. And then you might be thinking, oh, but there's no beginners bachata here. But actually there are also other beginner classes on at the same time. You've got a beginners salsa on one, you've got a 0 to hero semba, converting salseros, and you've got an Afro Mambo performance, all levels, performance attitude. So from there, you've got multiple levels. I'm not going to go through every single row, but I just want to give you an idea of how there are different levels at each hour, and there will always be something for you, and there's always an opportunity to learn something new. So you've got classes at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, at 1 p.m, 2 p.m, 3 p.m, 4 p.m, and 5 p.m. So that is plenty of hours of learning. Now, one thing I will say is that there is no slot here for lunch, which means that one of these hours you're going to have to sacrifice to go for a lunch break, and I do recommend going for a lunch break. I will be doing another video which is how to prepare for ABCD Festival, but one of the things just to have in the back of your head is that one of these hours is going to have to be dedicated to lunch, which is unfortunate but necessary. Moving on, we have Saturday evening. Now, you've done all those classes, it's now about 6 p.m, so you're like, okay, gonna go home, freshen up, gonna sort myself out, have some dinner, and then you come back in time for the next class, which is a party class at 9 p.m. Here again, similar to Friday evening, you've got 3 choices, 4 choices, and then again, this party starts from 10, but this time instead of 3 a.m, it's 4 a.m, and it is again 4-room salsa, Cuban salsa, bachata, kizomba, with again some more shows from 11 to 11:30. So if you missed it on Friday, you can watch some more shows on the Saturday night. This social tends to be the busiest social. This is the one that sort of, if you had a day pass for the Saturday or you had a full pass, everyone seems to congregate on this one, or just the weekend pass. That is tend to be the most busiest social. As always, it's just always such good fun. It does tend to get quite warm, but last year actually they really did do a good job with the aircon, so prepare to be warm, to be hot, but not as hot as previous years. And finally, you have the Sunday, which again starts classes at 11 a.m, and then it goes all the way through till 5 p.m. Classes every hour, suitable for beginners. Actually, you know what? Let's put in here the number of classes for beginners, for improvers, intermediates, advanced. If one of them says like improver and intermediate, I'll count them in both, and these are your numbers. So these are how many classes per level. Don't forget as well, you might be like an intermediate bachata dancer, but you've never done salsa. So you can also then experience salsa at a beginner level. And then on the Sunday night, because it doesn't end as late as the other nights, people have work on Monday, the social actually starts in one of the rooms at 4 o'clock, and then it continues in all the other rooms from 5 o'clock. And this lasts until 10 p.m, and that is the end. So you've got basically 5 hours of social dancing, and you still finish at a reasonable time on the Sunday so that you can go home, rest, sleep. As you can see, there is a lot of classes, a lot of choices, a lot of options, a lot of dance styles. So there's a couple of like sit down classes, a couple of conceptual classes, a couple of learn some moves in partner work, a couple of footwork classes, but there's such a big range that there will be something for you at this festival. Now, generally speaking, and the classes are not like subjected to this structure, but in general, the class structure is similar to that you would go to in a normal class. So you would turn up, you do a warm-up. If it's in one of the big halls, you'll do it sort of like all the classes together, and then they'll tell you where to go based on your level. And if it's a smaller room, then obviously it's just that one class in that room. You'll do the warm-up together and then start the class. You find a partner, form a circle, and the teacher should tell you which direction you are moving in. Sometimes the class sizes are really big, and this can be detrimental to your learning, so make sure you're putting yourself in a good position. And that sometimes when you have like 2 circles, you'll have an inner circle and an outer circle, just that you can see. And you may have to ask the teacher to just ask the inner circle to just squat so the outer circle can actually see as well and gain the same learning experience. From a learning perspective, I always try and go to as many classes as I can. And I always find I take something away from most classes, because it's the only place really that you're going to get such a range of teachers in so many different styles is at a festival, right? If I go to a class, let's say a bachata event, they're going to be a certain type of teacher, they're going to be a certain type of style, and that's what you'll get every single week. But at ABCD, you get the opportunity to, one, explore different styles without too much kind of commitment, as it were, and 2, you get to explore different types of teachers. So let's say you were curious about a specific teacher, but you hadn't had the chance to go to their class yet, or maybe they're in a different city and you've always wanted to be taught by them, then that is your opportunity to then go and try that class out and see what it's like and be taught by that teacher and, be told things, because each teacher has a different way of explaining things, they have a different way of doing things, and sometimes one concept or the way something is explained by one teacher doesn't click as well as another. So if you can get like a range of different teachers, even if they're sort of doing similar moves, but they're explaining things slightly differently, you can have different moments of like clicks, different like realizations where you're like, oh, that's what that means, or that now that that's been explained in a different way, now I understand. Because when it comes to learning, there's so many different ways to teach, and there's so many different ways that resonate with specific students. Different students learn in different ways. So if you are with a particular teacher, let's say you've been with them for a long time, and they explain things in a way that you're very familiar with, but there's certain things that just never quite clicked. And then you get the same move or a similar move, but a different teacher, and then those moves, and then they explain things, and then suddenly it clicks. That can like change the game when it comes to your dancing. So I always say, like, always try and get information from a range of different teachers and absorb all of the information, become a sponge, absorb all the information that you can, and all the different ways that they're explaining things and all the different ways that they are interpreting things, interpreting the music, showing you moves, showing you how to lead certain things. And it's a great opportunity to just get a really well-rounded experience. On the other hand, if there's certain dances that you've never done before, you could be like, you know what, this weekend I'm going to focus on leveling up my Kizomba. My Bachata is really good, but my Kizomba is like, so I'm going to go to every single Kizomba class I possibly can. And trust me, if you decide to do that, you will come away a much better Kizomba dancer, and so many things will start to click because you've committed yourself to hours and hours and hours of training. There's so many different ways that you can do festivals, and I will do that in my next video, which is like how to prepare. I will do like the different ways that you can do a festival to get the most out of it. There's so many different ways, but the beautiful thing is like the flexibility of this particular timetable for ABCD, with so many options per hour, so many different dance styles, it gives you the creative license to be able to go and do what you want to do and take what you want to take away from the festival. Now, from a social perspective, obviously you have hours and hours and hours and hours of social dancing, and in that you're going to experience people from all across the country. You're going to get to dance with people that you don't normally get to dance with. You get to dance with people that are all the way from like beginner dancing for like 2 months all the way through to people that have been dancing for like 15 years, 20 years. And there is a real range of experiences on the dance floor. And there is something really quite beautiful about that, being able to dance with people that you would never normally dance with, being able to experience different levels, experience different styles, different ways of leading. Sometimes I find when I go to London, I can tell who goes to the same class because they do similar moves or they have a similar style. And I think this particular group of people will get taught by the same teacher. Now imagine that, but on like a massive scale, because you've got like people from all across the country. And that is quite an exciting prospect, to be able to dance with so many different types of people, so many different like styles, and explore different movements. And sometimes as a follower anyway, you get to experience movements that you've not experienced before. So from a social perspective, as long as you go in with a real open mind, and you kind of take as many breaks as you need, drink as much water as you need, and understand that it can get quite crowded. Once you prepare for all of that, then you can really start to enjoy the moment and enjoy the dance and connect with so many different people. Social structure, as I said, tends to be in 4 rooms. I tend to like flip between the rooms, so I spend most of my evening in the Bachata room, but then if I'm like, I fancy something a little bit more slower, I want to do some Kizomba, practice my Kizomba, I'll go to the Kizomba room, have a few dances, go to other rooms, Salsa room for example, have a few dances there. So I will sort of flip between the rooms, but spend most of my time in the Bachata room because it is a dance that I enjoy it the most. But the nice thing is, because you've got all of them in one building, you can just walk around. Now I've got here a list of pros and cons for the festival, so I'm just going to talk through them. I am reading it off here, so don't mind me looking down. Now, a couple of cons, and I have to be honest about this. Sometimes the class sizes are too big, that it does dampen your learning. Perhaps sometimes you can't see, or perhaps you are in a position, or you've put yourself in a position where you can't see, and also maybe even not hear. So class size can be affected, but normally if I find that a class is just too busy, I'll just go to another class. I wouldn't stay in that one. There's sort of a range of class sizes. It really depends on how popular the teacher is. And also there's a lot of people around, so if you do get easily overwhelmed with crowds and loud noises, even like walking through corridors where there's lots of people, just bear that in mind, that can be overwhelming and can cause a little bit of anxiety if that is something you experience. If that is something that you do experience, you'd either have to prepare for it, even like, know what you're doing and planning ahead of time, or alternatively, perhaps a smaller festival is better for you. And finally, this one makes me a little bit sad, but I have had some people go to something like ABCD Festival and it's made them feel really insecure because, let's say, they thought they were a certain type of dancer, and then suddenly they're being, met with dancers, some of the best dancers in the country, including lots of teachers, and that kind of impacts their self-esteem a little bit. So that's just something to be aware of, that there are so many good dancers out there, and something like ABCD Festival does congregate a large amount of them. And if you go in with the expectation that there's going to be some incredible dancers there, and that your job is to learn from those incredible dancers and to try and get dances with those incredible dancers just so you know how it feels like, that might help you manage your expectations just a little bit and sort of deal with that insecurity that might come. Hopefully you end up coming away with lots of learning and positivity and inspiration rather than insecurity, but it is quite a possibility that you might feel insecure. So keep that in mind. Those are the cons. Of course, the pros, there's some incredible pros. That includes things like mega learning, like you get to 10 times your learning in a way that, you just can't do anywhere else. I always find when I come back from a festival, my brain is so full of so much inspiration, I'm motivated, I'm feeling excited, I've got loads of cool moves, I've experienced lots of cool moves, I've experienced some great teaching. So it's like mega learning. Like you learn more in that weekend that you can learn than you can learn in like a month, as long as you're primed for it. You get to experience lots of new concepts, but also lots of old concepts explained differently, as I said before, in terms of how different teachers explain things. And then they do have some really high quality teachers, like some of the best in the country, some of the best international teachers come in and teach. So you really get a high quality, high standard, interesting routines, like great music, great DJs. So all in all, from that side of things, it is a really fun experience. And being able to access those teachers, access those classes that you don't normally get to access. Let's say you're not like based in a big city, for example, there's only like 1 or 2 classes that you can do, then suddenly you're being able to do things like Afro House, things on like Salsa on 2, for example, and you get to access and experience all of these classes that you don't normally get to. So from that perspective, like it is such a good learning experience. And the final pro is actually, it works out quite cheap. Just think back to how much you paid for your last dance class, like for your last weekly dance class. Now think if you did every single hour of classes, including the party class, and right now, at this very moment in time of recording, the tickets through myself is £115 per class. That works out to this much here. I'll put it in the editing, and that is actually quite cheap. So actually you're getting pretty good value for money. Whilst it feels like a lot of money, the amount that you get out of it is definitely good value for money. Those are the pros. If you were thinking of buying tickets, this is where I do my little sales pitch. If you were thinking of buying tickets, you can buy them through myself. Just drop me a message on my Instagram, which is at Marwa_Ramsey_dancer. And I will send you the details on how to buy a ticket. They are cheaper through me than they are on the website, but of course if you don't know me, you might not trust me, you might just want to, pay the extra money and buy it off the website. You can do that too. Alternatively, drop me a message and I will hook you up with some tickets. I am an official ambassador. I'm not just some random person, like reselling things. All in all, just an event that I absolutely love. It's one of the best festivals that I've ever been to, one of the best events I've ever been to. The guy who organises it, Faddy K, and his incredible team and all the people that help out, all the teachers that come, all the organisation, the social media, all the work and hard work that goes into it just provides for a very, very good event. And the organiser himself, Faddy K, I have a lot of respect for him and I have a lot of respect for his experience as well. And he knows how to put on a great event and to get a great group of people together, if I say so myself. Now, if you watch this, I'm going to assume that there's a possibility you're going to ABCD Festival, so if you are, I will hopefully be seeing you there. I will also do another video in it as a what to prepare for ABCD, how to prepare for your first festival, that kind of thing. And when it's out, it will be here. But in the meantime, this is going to be just like videos I wish my dance students would watch. So you can watch those for now until the ABCD one comes out. See you there.